What's up, cool people? I'm Matt Conroy. Welcome back to the Scripture Scoop. This time, I've got your scoop on Genesis chapter 27. So, basically, last time Isaac was having some troubles with Abimelech and his people, which really most of the troubles, I guess, were with the Philistines because they were in that area. This time, we're gonna get a little more on the whole Jacob-Esau sibling rivalry thing. But let's get right into this, because it's not exactly a short chapter. Alright, so, Genesis 27, verse 1. One day when Isaac was old and turning blind, he called for Esau, his older son, and said, "My son." "Yes, father," Esau replied. "I am an old man now," Isaac said, "and I don't know when I may die. Take your bow and a quiver full of arrows, and go out into the open country to hunt some wild game for me. Prepare my favorite dish, and bring it here for me to eat. Then I will pronounce the blessing that belongs to you, my firstborn son, before I die." Alright, so basically, Isaac's getting old. He wants to, pass on the typical blessing of the firstborn son, which is different from the birthright, I guess. Or maybe this was just a separate blessing that he had in mind. I don't know. But in any case, he's trying to, I think, maybe pass along his blessing that he was promised from God onto, Esau. Because, basically, he likes Esau. And Esau's the firstborn son. So, anyway. So Esau is supposed to go out and do some hunting and make Isaac his favorite dish. Just, to go with the occasion of getting his blessing, I guess. I don't know. But anyway, let's move on to verse 5. But Rebekah overheard what Isaac had said to his son Esau. So when Esau left to hunt for the wild game, she said to her son Jacob, "Listen, I overheard your father say to Esau, 'Bring me some wild game and prepare me a delicious meal. Then I will bless you in the Lord's presence before I die. Now, my son, listen to me. Do exactly as I tell you. Go out to the flocks and bring me 2 fine young goats. I'll use them to prepare your father's favorite dish. Then take the food to your father so he can eat it and bless you before he dies.'" So, Rebekah, having a preference for Jacob, is basically trying to get him the blessing that's intended for Esau. And I don't know how much of this is, to do with Rebekah just liking Jacob better, or if she's also, trying to sort of take things into her own hands, so to speak, regarding what she was told by God that, Jacob would be the one who's blessed and, become a greater nation in a sense. But anyway, so she's scheming to make this go in favor of Jacob rather than Esau. Verse 11. "But look," Jacob replied to Rebekah, "my brother Esau is a hairy man, and my skin is smooth. What if my father touches me? He'll see that I'm trying to trick him, and then he'll curse me instead of blessing me." But his mother replied, "Then let the curse fall on me, my son. Just do what I tell you. Go out and get the goats for me." See, Jacob's not stupid. He's, like, if he's gonna dupe his father, he wants to try and have his bases covered. But I guess Rebecca's just kind of like, nah, don't worry about it, I got this. So the goats, I guess, are... being that, Rebecca is Isaac's wife, you would hope she knows what his favorite dish is, or at least the bulk of how to prepare it. Anyway, so that's what she's gonna try and do. She's basically gonna try and make Jacob seem like he's Esau and, get Esau's blessing, essentially. Verse 14. So Jacob went out and got the young goats for his mother. Rebekah took them and prepared a delicious meal, just the way Isaac liked it. Then she took Esau's favorite clothes, which were there in the house, and gave them to her younger son Jacob. She covered his arms and the smooth part of his neck with the skin of the young goats. Then she gave Jacob the delicious meal, including freshly baked bread. So there's the details of how Rebekah is essentially trying to dupe Isaac into giving the blessing to Jacob. So let's see how it goes. Verse 18. So Jacob took the food to his father. "My father?" he said. "Yes, my son," Isaac answered. "Who are you, Esau or Jacob?" I guess... did it say that Isaac was... kind of hard of sight, or, whatever you'd call it? I don't know if he was, technically blind, but he couldn't see very well, clearly. In any case, so rather than just looking, he's trying to ask who it is, just so he knows who he's talking to, I guess. Anyway, verse 19. Jacob replied, "It's Esau, your firstborn son. I've done as you told me. Here's the wild game. Now sit up and eat it so you can give me your blessing." Isaac asked, "How did you find it so quickly, my son?" "The Lord your God put it in my path," Jacob replied. See, so there's a bit of an exchange back and forth. Neither of these men are stupid. But, Jacob, kind of living up to his name of being kind of a deceiver, or one who, trips people up, is finding ways to talk around the situation and continue to make Isaac believe that he's Esau. All right, verse 21. Then Isaac said to Jacob, "Come closer so I can touch you and make sure that you are really Esau." So Jacob went closer to his father, and Isaac touched him. "The voice is Jacob's, but the hands are Esau's," Isaac said. But he did not recognize Jacob because Jacob's hands felt hairy, just like Esau's. So Isaac prepared to bless Jacob. "But are you really my son Esau?" he asked. "Yes, I am," Jacob replied. See, it doesn't say in this at all if Jacob tried to, disguise his voice as Esau's. You would think he would have tried that a little bit, but clearly that wasn't fooling Isaac if he did try that, so I guess it's not really an important point. Anyway, Isaac is seemingly mostly convinced. We'll know that for sure right here in a second. Verse 25. Then Isaac said, "Now, my son, bring me the wild game. Let me eat it, and then I will give you my blessing." So Jacob took the food to his father, and Isaac ate it. He also drank the wine that Jacob served him. Then Isaac said to Jacob, "Please come a little closer and kiss me, my son." You know, I would assume the friendly greeting kind of kiss, similar to what's done all, in various parts of the world. I was going to say all throughout Europe, but really various parts of the world. But who knows? In any case, some of this might have been further attempts to clarify and specify that, yes, it was in fact Esau and not Jacob, even though it was actually Jacob. Anyway, verse 27. So Jacob went over and kissed him. And when Isaac caught the smell of his clothes, he was finally convinced, and he blessed his son. He said, "Ah, the smell of my son is like the smell of the outdoors, which the Lord has blessed." So maybe that was part of the identification process Isaac was trying to go through just to be sure. Because this was a blessing that was not meant to be, just given loosely. Anyway, verse 28, I think this is still Isaac speaking. "From the dew of heaven and the richness of the earth, may God always give you abundant harvests of grain and bountiful new wine. May many nations become your servants, and may they bow down to you. May you be the master over your brothers, and may your mother's sons bow down to you. All who curse you will be cursed, and all who bless you will be blessed." So I guess that was just kind of the wording of Isaac's blessing there, which I still think back in those days they took those very literally too. But anyway, verse 30. As soon as Isaac had finished blessing Jacob, and almost before Jacob had left his father, Esau returned from his hunt. Esau prepared a delicious meal and brought it to his father. Then he said, "Sit up, my father, and eat my wild game so you can give me your blessing." Yeah. Betcha Isaac's confused right now. Verse 32. But Isaac asked him, "Who are you?" Esau replied, "It's your son, your firstborn son Esau." Isaac began to tremble uncontrollably and said, "Then who just served me wild game? I have already eaten it, and I blessed him just before you came. And yes, that blessing must stand." So, I think Isaac is starting to realize that he's been duped. Because, he was surprised at how quick, that everything was prepared beforehand. And, this timing and probably the voice and all that would make a little more sense with it being Esau. And he's realizing he messed up unintentionally, but still. Verse 34. When Esau heard his father's words, he let out a loud and bitter cry. "Oh, my father, what about me? Bless me too," he begged. But Isaac said, Your brother was here, and he tricked me. He has taken away your blessing." Esau exclaimed, "No wonder his name is Jacob, for now he has cheated me twice. First he took my rights as the firstborn, and now he has stolen my blessing. Oh, haven't you saved even one blessing for me?" Yeah, so at this point, the vast majority, if not the entirety, of what Esau was essentially due as the firstborn son is now, by all rights, Jacob's, because of these two times that Jacob has tricked, well, Esau and then Isaac. Verse 37, Isaac said to Esau, "I have made Jacob your master, and have declared that all his brothers will be his servants. I have guaranteed him an abundance of grain and wine. What is left for me to give you, my son?" Esau pleaded, "But do you have only one blessing? Oh, my father, bless me too." Then Esau broke down and wept. So, I'd be kind of wondering that same thing too. It's like, do you really only have one blessing to give? Like, can't you say some sort of blessing for me too? Like, but anyway, verse 39. Finally, his father Isaac said to him, "You will live away from the richness of the earth, and away from the dew of the heaven above. You will live by your sword, and you will serve your brother. But when you decide to break free, you will shake his yoke from your neck." So, still not exactly a blessing, but at least towards the end of that, it's not all doom and gloom, per se, for Esau. Basically, it's kind of a pronouncement that Jacob's trickery and blessings are going to weigh heavy on Esau, but eventually, once all that, once he ends up breaking free from that, which kind of I read that sort of as a sign of, him dropping his resentment toward Jacob, in a sense. Then it basically says, like, he'll be free from that weight. Like, I mean, maybe that's just me reading some things into it, knowing a bit of what comes further ahead, but it seems like a fairly accurate and not so terrible way to, interpret that and look into some of the details of what that means. But still, in any case, Esau's not going to have an easy life. I mean, living by the sword, serving his brother, living away from the richness of the earth. Like, yeah. Anyway, verse 41. From that time on, Esau hated Jacob because their father had given Jacob the blessing. And Esau began to scheme. "I will soon be mourning my father's death. Then I will kill my brother Jacob." Wanting to wait until after his father's dead so that his father doesn't have to mourn the loss of Jacob or anything like that. But yeah, Esau's got it out for Jacob already. And I think that's part of the whole yoke that Isaac was talking about being on Esau, just the weight of, hatred essentially towards his own brother. All right, verse 42. But Rebekah heard about Esau's plans, so she sent for Jacob and told him, "Listen, Esau is consoling himself by plotting to kill you. So listen carefully, my son. Get ready and flee to my brother Laban in Haran. Stay there with him until your brother cools off. When he calms down and forgets what you have done to him, I will send for you to come back. Why should I lose both of you in one day?" Then Rebekah said to Isaac, "I am sick and tired of these local Hittite women. I would rather die than see Jacob marry one of them." And that's actually where the chapter ends. The subsection isn't quite done yet, but, I think that last verse could possibly be in reference to Esau's wives, because it said he married 2 Hittite women, if I remember correctly. Yeah, 2 Hittite wives. So I think she's basically setting up a situation for Jacob to leave and, essentially escape from Esau without it looking really questionable or suspicious to Isaac. So anyway, more developments, as I said, in the whole Jacob-Esau sibling rivalry tension situation there. I mean, you kind of feel for Esau a little bit, but at the same time, it was mentioned before this that Esau's wives were a bit of a problem already for Isaac and Rebekah. So I guess that could have also been part of the motivation for Rebekah shifting the blessing toward Jacob instead of letting Esau have it. There are a couple of possible reasons that I've already mentioned. But in any case, this was one of those things where it was kind of ultimately meant to be anyway. Or at least it certainly seems like it, based on, what God had told Rebekah before Jacob and Esau were born. Because if that kind of blessing that Isaac wound up giving Jacob was meant for Esau, a lot of that stuff sounds like what God had in store for Jacob. So if Esau had gotten that, then I'm not quite sure how that all would have worked out. But anyway, it's not saying God is limited by any such situations, but I think you get my point. It was kind of bound to happen. So anyway, that's it for Genesis 27. We are, I think, at this point, roughly halfway through Genesis now. But anyway, that's not super important, I suppose. But I am curious while I'm thinking about it. We're a little over halfway. Genesis has 50 chapters. Anywho, so yeah, that's gonna do it for this time. As always, things get a little crazy and confusing, at least to some people involved, whenever we try to take things into our own hands. Even, if we're trying to do what God wants, but in our own way, it doesn't always work out great. Not saying for sure that that's what was happening here, but yeah. people can make for some really confusing situations in life. Not like we really needed any more evidence to that point. But anyway, I digress. So, that's going to do it for now. As always, like the video if you enjoyed it, share it with others if you want them to see. Make sure you subscribe to my channel and click the notification bell to get updates when I post new videos. If you've missed all the stuff leading up to this, I have a playlist. It's I think I just called it Bible study or whatever, because I really wasn't sure what I was going to call this series or whatever. So feel free to check that out if you want to know what's happened up to this point, or bust out your own Bible and read it for yourself. Either way, that's kind of the whole point of me doing this, is to try and encourage everybody to read for themselves and think about what's going on, not just, letting other people speak and try and tell them what is in the Bible or what they should do or what God wants of them. Anyway, otherwise, just look down in the description for info on my social media pages and all that stuff. And leave comments down below with all your thoughts. I would love to have more discussion on these. So, yeah. Let me know down below. So, anyway, that's all I've got for you. Hope you're all doing well. Hopefully, I will see you for the next one. But until then, stay cool, people.